Wall Street apes on X. Whoa. Nick Shirley exposes there are 1,200 medical transport companies in Minnesota. For a year, photos with timestamps were taken off of the vans that are supposed to be used by these companies. None moved in a year. They sit parked, but are getting paid to transport patients. I've been to many of these transportation companies, and I've been timestamping my photographs a whole year at one facility. Let's hear what he has to say. This is crazy.
And so what's the need, for example, for 1,200 transportation companies inside of Minnesota? What's the need for that many transportation?
Well, there isn't.
This is straight up like clear as day fraud. Why are they the only state doing this? Ask yourself that. And secondly, why are they all Somalians that are running it? And we're supposed to believe it's all legitimate?
There isn't. You're talking about getting a right. You already have services that are provided. You have Metro Mobility that offers free rides to seniors and low-income people. And so to have that many non-emergency medical transportation companies, it's not possible that they can transport that many people. I have been to many of these transportation companies, and I've been time-stamping my photographs for a whole year at one facility in Minneapolis. And those vans in that parking lot have not moved 1 inch in an entire year. They're all still sitting there.
And so when you think about it, you have, with the transportation companies, you have the adult care centers. So are they working hand in hand together to then say, we're getting the services from them, the adult daycare centers, to then transport them to their appointments?
So my feeling is this transportation deal.
That's crazy. That's crazy. So if you have any further questions about what's happening there, we have a follow-up video that I saw here. I meme, therefore I am. Breaking. Man who previously lived in Minnesota has admitted to benefiting from Somali-linked healthcare fraud. So talking about the emergency vehicles and stuff that were just not moving or anything. Well, some of them do move, at least 15 years ago. And when they did, it's actually worse than when they were sitting still. He says that about 15 years ago, while struggling with drug addiction, he was enrolled in taxpayer-funded Minnesota Care. As part of the program, he received free transportation to a methadone clinic. According to his account, the drivers, whom he says were Somali, required him to sign off on fake medical appointments and then pay them cash at the end of each month. He admits he did not question the fraud at the time, saying he was a junkie and did not care, since the money ultimately went toward buying more drugs. He claims this type of fraud has been going on for over a decade. This is crazy. And again, it's on the internet, so take his word for it or not, if you want to believe him or not. Just based off of how he tells the story, I choose to believe that this is an authentic rehab junkie that was struggling with addiction.
This video might not get any views, but whatever. I don't fucking care. Once upon a time, I used to live in this warm, lovely state called Minnesota. And within Minnesota, I was put on Minnesota Care, Minnesota Medicaid. And that Medicaid would pay for my methadone clinic. Not only did they pay for my methadone clinic, it paid for the medical taxi that I took to and from said clinic.
Now imagine busting your ass, working hard, and doing it right, living life honestly and genuinely doing your best, being an honest man, paying your taxes, and then hearing a story that your tax money is going to a dude that's a junkie, paying for it, not just his drugs, but paying for his ride to and from getting drugs. That's so effed, it's not even funny.
Those taxi drivers were all Somalian. I was an addict. I didn't give a shit what was going on. But those Somalian taxi drivers used to have me write fake medical appointments, and they would pay me cash at the end of every month. I was a junkie. I didn't give a shit. So about 15 years ago, those medical rides, taxis, were driven by Somalians. They would be frauding my Minnesota Medicaid by me writing fake appointments. And what would I do? I would go to the dope man and put it into a needle and shoot it into my arm. So,
Wow.
do whatever you want with that information. But let's be honest, this Somali fraud that's going on, it's not new. It's been happening for quite some time. I'd say, I got about coming up on 11 years clean now. So the fraud that has been happening has been going on for a very long time. I'd say I started getting paid out by them motherfuckers probably like 13, 14 years ago. Do whatever you want to do with this information, but the medical scams, the fraud has been happening for a very long
time. That's crazy. I mean, I don't know. Again, as a taxpayer, I don't know how you're supposed to feel about that. This is the post-millennial saying, CMS Administrator Dr. Oz CMS says he has notified Tim Walz that all Medicaid billing in Minnesota will be audited. What we have learned so far, or leered so far in Minnesota, is just the tip of the iceberg. Perhaps the largest Medicaid scam ever. This is the dominoes falling in real time right now. It's all happening. This is why Tim Walz is not running for re-election. And this is why I said in my previous video covering this, that he will not make it to the end of his tenure as governor. He will not. I guarantee you.
We have just sent a letter to Governor Walz alerting him to something he probably fears and should have taken action in a timely manner to avoid. We are auditing all of the Medicaid bills, in particular for the 14 programs that he and his own administration have admitted were problems, and we're going to claw that money back from the Medicaid monies that they'll be getting. Now, this is a major problem for the state because they've got to own the fact that they have been bilking the federal taxpayer for their sloppy behavior for years. What we have learned so far in Minnesota is just the tip of the iceberg, perhaps the largest Medicaid scam ever, taking place throughout the state in many different fashions. But just alone with the things that we're concerned about, we're talking about $500 million or more of money that could be in places that we're not even sure how it was billed, where it went, people having trouble tracking it.
So you know what this is a symptom of is the government continually raising taxes, raising percents to the point of insatiable greed, getting so much money to fill their pockets. And then once they fill their pockets, they're like, shit, we need to keep this up because we need more money coming in. We need to keep this amount because we got used to this. Oh, and these other things need help too. We need to explain it away. So they just start throwing money at fucking everything. You could legitimately cut taxes by 90% and nothing would change in this country. Literally nothing would change except for the fraud would be completely cut out of it. 100%. This is just excess funding that they're just throwing at shit because they have the money and they want to make sure they're able to justify the percentages that they're charging by saying, look what it cost us last year and all the things that we spent the money on. We need to increase it next year because it's getting so expensive. They don't give a fuck about the hardworking person.
We challenged the Walz administration to give us a corrective action plan by the end of the year. They sent us something after hours on New Year's Eve. It was completely insufficient. This is an appropriate response from the federal government. President Trump is very clear on this. He doesn't want 6 million people or less living in Minnesota to have all the fraud that happened in that state paid for by all the other taxpayers in the country. And for the 6 million people in Minnesota, Governor Walz let you down. His administration, despite all the blustering now, did not do that.
Like I said, I would be livid if I was a Minnesota resident and this was all coming to light. I'd be pissed. Where are those interviews, by the way? Where are the news stations interviewing the people of Minnesota? Why are we not seeing any of that?
Their job. They did not take these very credible allegations over the last several years seriously. Just in the time that I've been administrator.
Yeah, because they've gotten away with it for so long. They've had people come snooping around before and they just brush them away and nothing happened. So they thought they could do the same thing again this time.
They've been telling us that they have this handled. They did not. And so the corrective action plans that they have submitted, since they are inadequate, we're going to demand that they fix those problems, and we're going to claw back money to protect the federal taxpayer.
There we go. And we'll leave it at this. This is Marky Kelly saying, federal officials say widespread fraud in Minnesota's Medicaid program has led them to defer some federal Medicaid funding. This is January 6th. Tim Walz, governor of Minnesota. Dear Governor Walz, As has been widely reported and as acknowledged by the state of Minnesota, there is significant ongoing fraud within Minnesota's Medicaid program. And this is the same Dr. Oz we were just listening to. He wrote this. Investigations by the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services, CMS, and Department of Health and Human Services offices and Inspector General, the Department of Justice, DOJ, and Federal Bureau of Investigation, FBI, and other federal partners have identified widespread fraud, waste, and abuse, FWA, in Minnesota Medicaid and repeated failures by the state to adequately address it. These investigations have revealed schemes involving billing for services not rendered, services billed at levels not supported by documentation, and exploitation of vulnerable Medicaid beneficiaries for financial gain. Federal law enforcement has identified complex fraud schemes involving networks of providers operating across multiple high-risk service categories, including services delivered through Minnesota's home and community-based service programs. Recent investigations have focused on 14 high-risk Medicaid services that the state itself has identified as particularly vulnerable to fraud. According to CMS analysts of Minnesota Medicaid data, these 14 programs consume $3.75 billion annually, with a B, annually in federal and state taxpayer resources. CMS's analysis of Minnesota Medicaid data shows extraordinary growth in provider enrollment and payments for several of these services. Did they think they were going to get away with this forever? I mean, maybe if you are a criminal, you start off as a small-time thief, petty crimes that are meaningless, and you just keep going until you get caught. This is the trend that's happened with criminal activity throughout all human history. It's no different when you're a government official doing the same damn shit. With beneficiary growth and service utilization trends, despite warning signs that have been evident for years, the state has not implemented sufficient safeguards to prevent ongoing improper payments. Accompanying this letter is a notification outlining steps CMS will be taking to safeguard taxpayer resources and protect vulnerable populations from Minnesota fraudsters, aka you, Tim Waltz. CMS is conducting a focused review of past CMS 64 quarterly receipts from the state and will defer funding based on findings of FWA, as well as initiating non-compliance with hold processors for future quarters. The full legal authority for these steps is outlined in the attached notification. In addition, CMS will continue to exercise strong oversight of the state actions to address ongoing and widespread FWA. This will require your leadership to address. Well, don't hold your breath on Tim Waltz leading anything except to people's ultimate doom and demise. But I will say it is on a personal note, just on a human note, it's really sad that this is happening to people that genuinely need the help and were not frauding the system, that had something happen in their life that they're just really down on the luck struggling, and this was really helping them. Those people are the ones getting fucked more than anyone right now. Tim Waltz got his golden parachute, no issues at all with him. He's going to seat his person replacing him and no issues there at all. The people that are up top, nothing ever happens to them. It's the people that are down below that are getting really hurt by this. And I'd like to think that the Somalians all get deported and this all gets discovered, found out, and exposed. And the proof gets shown to the courts to have actual repercussions come at Tim Waltz. And you notice, by the way, over the past few days, he keeps putting his daughter front facing on all the videos. That's not by accident. He's trying to come across like, oh, I'm just a dad, and here's my daughter, and I'm a family man, and I wouldn't do anything bad like this. You can't put me away. You got to take me away from my daughter. That's what he's doing, and he knows it. It's gross. It's disgusting, and I'd like to think that people see right through that, but we'll see. But on top of all the education fraud, this is just another layer of the onion. The Medicare, Medicaid, medical fraud runs very deep in Minnesota. And it doesn't look like it's even limited to Minnesota, but that's another story for another day. For this one, I'll leave that right there.